Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today is the final part of this dinosaur project, and I apologize again for the video being late this week, but I didn't want to split it into more parts, so I decided to take a couple extra days to finish the drawing and just post the whole thing a couple of days late. So the main focus of today is filling in the remaining texture of his flesh, and I'm continuing to work in sections because as I explained in the last video, it kind of helps me focus doing little bits at a time rather than bigger chunks of areas. So I'm starting with the shadows using some dark warm grays, and then I'm moving on to the highlights using some very light kind of warm grays. And I've also got some cool grays lined up where I will alternate the warmth and coolness of the colors. But I find doing sections at a time kind of helps me see the bigger picture, as it were. Doing a really large project like this, it can be difficult to see what any one area should look like. But by splitting it up into sections like this, I can kind of imagine where the highlight needs to be, and then from there kind of put in surrounding colors, trying to create a blend. So where the darkest gray is, I can lighten the color around it and have it become lighter, as almost like a blend, even though it's with dots. And same with the lights, I put in the light color and then darken the colors, darken the dots around those, gradually getting darker away from the light areas, and in a way it sort of creates a blend. I mean, this has been a really sort of difficult project for me because I've never drawn a dinosaur before. I've never drawn this kind of skin texture before. I've done pointillism where you kind of draw with dots, but that's not really the same because normally dots are done, well, by the dot work I've done before has always been in ink and kind of monotone. So this is almost I don't know, resembling some kind of impressionist style for me, if you can look at it that way. If I was drawing fur, I'm used to drawing fur, it wouldn't pose anywhere near as much of a challenge, and you might think it's strange drawing lines being simpler than drawing dots. It should be kind of more or less the same, but it's been very challenging and very interesting, and I've really enjoyed this. It's been like a kind of a great learning process for me as well. And here you can kind of see where the cooler gray, slightly darker than the highlight, is coming up really close to the highlight I've put down, and it helps me kind of spread the dots and create the blend around the highlight where it gets darker and darker progressively. So it's just a different way of approaching this sort of art, and it has been very interesting and somewhat difficult to do. But there's nothing quite like trying something new and learning from it. It's a lot of fun. Now, as I'm watching it come together, I can see in some areas quite a stark contrast between the colors I've chosen to put down. For example, this cool gray that I'm using now has almost a bluish hint to it, and it's bordering on a very warm dark brown on this kind of leg area. So I'm going to address this contrast and add a few other warm colors around it, and also possibly add kind of different kind of circles around the edge of the blue. Now I'm also adding a very reddish kind of brown as well on the leg here, and just warming up some of the colors around the cool colors I've put down. I want the shadows and the highlights to be visible, but not kind of not as separate as they're coming out right now. So the blending that I'm gonna have to do, because obviously I can't just smudge it and get rid of all the texture that I've put down, so I have to continue working with the circles that I'm making. So I'm scattering the colors a bit, making them different sizes. Obviously on smaller areas like the thinner part of the legs, the circles can't really be that big. But I'm scattering a few darker circles in between the blue, the grayish, the bluish gray. And I want to basically cover the entire surface of the flesh first with the darks and lights that I want to have, and then anywhere where the contrast is just too stark and too kind of brutal on the eyes, I'm going to see it when it's all on the page, and then address it separately by kind of drawing around the dots, and that will give them a slightly different color and a better blend towards each other. Now that the main portion of the body is done, I want to do the same thing on the tail. I have to keep the dots very small here, but I want to put in the highlights and the warm areas, and then blend out from the dark areas into these highlights that I've created. It's starting to look how I want, but if I zoom out, you can see quite clearly the contrast on the leg just doesn't look right, so that will definitely need to be addressed. Okay, Kitty's here to play, so I had to just cover this up for a minute. He just wants some attention, and he's too pretty to say no to. Plus, if you can see the kind of mohawk thing going on in the back of his head, it's because I gave him his monthly drops today, so he really wants the extra play to kind of, pay him back for the suffering. Well, it's not really suffering, but he doesn't like the smell, so he just doesn't like to get his monthly drops. So I try and play with him a little bit extra when he gets those to make up for it. He has so many toys, but then he still likes the simplest things like a ribbon. So as you can imagine, Christmas is like an awesome time of year because not only does he get presents, but he also gets to play with all the ribbons off of everyone else's presents. So I was gonna cut all this out in editing, but I just decided to leave it. I figured it was kind of fitting since he crashed the first part of the dinosaur video and just spent so much time playing in the first video. I thought it would be kind of cool to leave this bit in as well. And yeah. I hope it's okay. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you want to see more or less of him, because I normally just edit all this out, but I have had a few people say how much they enjoyed seeing the cat while I'm drawing, so maybe I can leave a few little bits in here and there when he does come and say hello. And yeah, let me know if you have any pets that kind of take over your space and demand attention at all the times when you just want to do whatever you need to do. And they do find the times when you're like the busiest and just demand your attention, don't they? But yeah, he's absolutely precious. I love him to bits. Well, anyway, I have to get back to work now, Kitty, otherwise this drawing will never get done. I've added the trunk to this tree so it's not just floating in midair, but I've blended it out so it matches kind of the rest of the really blurry background, but I will come back to that. I want to finish the tail first. And as I get to the very finest part of the tail, I realize I can't really do dots there, so I've basically just colored that in. I'm trying to leave the ribs of the tail and doing the small dots wherever I can on the thicker parts of the tail, because the tail is not only a smaller area but it's also furthest away. Can't really have large dots there, so all the dots there are pretty much small and evenly sized, just so you can kind of see the dots. And again, I'm using the same technique of blending away, so brown away from the top dark areas and grays away from the bottom. And here. I've come back to circle the bluish areas to help them blend in a little bit better into the thigh area, and also to help it blend into the areas next to it. I've done the same circles around the light brown area next to the gray, so I'm hoping this kind of pulls it together a little bit. Now that the main texture of the dinosaur is done, I'm just kind of trying to sort of take a step back and look over the whole picture, as it were, and just see which other areas need to be brought together a little bit better, sort of adding or darkening the shadows in places like this back leg here. Also having a look at where I think the grass will need more contrast where it meets the water. Also, I feel like this portion of the thigh here just needs to be brought in a little bit, so I've taken a slightly warmer color, slightly shaded the dots, and then I'm going around them with a warmer brown, just to kind of, again, same as the previous highlight, just to blend it better into the whole kind of look of the piece, so it doesn't stand out as much. So the color essentially stays the same of the dots inside, but giving them an outline with a warmer color just blends it better into the darker colors that are already there in the thigh. And there are areas where the water meets the land that I feel could be more crisp. In the front, I want some of the ferns to kind of stick out as though they were visible over the water. And in the back, I want that edge to just be a little bit more crisp and more in the shadows. So I'm using a black to kind of outline the edge of the land and then blend it out into the shadow area where it's already in. And where the land kind of meets the sky in the back, I feel like I want that blurred more. So I'm using a very light gray. It's almost white, but it's just off-white. And then adding a bit of actual white on top of them. So what I want to achieve is, because the background is so blurry, the further away it gets, the less kind of detail you see. So I've basically blended that in. It's almost like where the land meets the sky is just a bit of a blur. They're very light colors, both of them, so it kind of works. I've also used some of the white to crisp up some of the highlights, and this is basically the final step where I actually do use the white. And some of the edges around the legs where there's green, that just needs to be a little bit crisper. The shadow on this back arm needs to be a little bit darker. All the kind of final touches wherever I feel like they're needed. And there's some areas here in the face that I feel need to be a little bit darker, so I'm brushing over with the black pencil just very lightly so as not to damage the texture that I've put in, but just slightly deepening the colors where needed. Well, this is it. The T-Rex is done. Thank you so much for watching, and a great big thanks to everyone who's taken this whole 4-part journey with me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more random art. I'll be back with some Christmassy drawings for you next week. Thanks again. See you soon.